having such trust that when things spin out and start going wrong, that you don't throw in the towel, give up, go get another job, go do, whatever the matrix tells you you're supposed to do when things don't go right. It's no, I'm going to just keep stepping forward and trusting that it's still going to work out, even when there's no evidence around.
The way that you and I see success versus the way that the conventional wisdom sees success, it really comes down to who has the power.
Everything that we learn is sort of taught to us in the matrix. We absorb, and there's no avoiding that. You're going to absorb all of these limiting beliefs, and most of humanity is running on limiting beliefs, as we know, but it keeps us under control, it keeps us productive. And so I needed a system to combat all that. Ultimately, I trusted my own abundance enough to walk away from a very high-paying corporate job and just do this full time.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Russ Ruffino. Today we have an incredible client interview for you. We're going to be talking to one of our clients who's an expert on manifestation, and not just manifestation by pumping yourself up and feeling good, how to actually harness and leverage those negative emotions that we all have. So in my opinion, is one of the very, very best in the world when it comes to helping you create the life that you want. And like every video on this channel, it's all about one thing: pulling back the curtain and showing you what we have learned from over 9 figures in high-ticket coaching sales. Now, quick disclaimer, obviously I'm not saying you're gonna watch this video and turn around and make 9 figures. Your odds of doing that are about 1 in a million. But if I were trying to learn how to make money online, if I were trying to learn how to monetize my expertise and create real income and freedom and impact, then I would want to learn from the best. So if that's what you want to do, hit that like and subscribe button, because you are definitely in the right place. All right, let's dive in. Today we have the amazing, the incredible Mr. David Strickel. David, what's going on, man? How are you?
That's quite a buildup. Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
You got it. I'm good. And by the way, guys, look, the reason that we do these client interviews isn't to brag or talk about how awesome we are. It's just because I want to introduce you guys to the caliber of thought leaders that we work with. And these are people who have made incredible strides in their business. They're creating amazing breakthroughs for their clients. And they're really, enjoying the big 3, the income and the freedom and the impact at the same time. And you really need to have all 3. If you don't, you're going to subconsciously sabotage your business at some point. So it's not about rise and grind. It's not about working 90-hour weeks. It's not about chaining yourself to your desk. And it's not about selling a bunch of stuff that nobody uses or selling a bunch of ebooks that nobody reads, right? It's like, how do we actually do this in a way where we can make the money we want, enjoy the lifestyle we want, but then also make an impact on the people that are seeking real leadership from us. So David, it's great to have you here, man. Why don't you start out by telling us about what you've created? You've created this incredible practice called TYA, which is really an operating system for achieving excellence. And let's start there, man. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, I have been a student of conscious creation really my entire life. Grew up with very disconnected parents, grew up very poor. And I recall way back in 1982 telling my older brother, Doug, even though we were poor in our household, that we could have and be and do anything that we wanted as long as we really believed it. And so I've been a student of this my whole life before I even knew what it was called. And when the book, The Secret, came out, what was that, about 20 years ago now, that was music to my ears. And I'd already read Think and Grow Rich and all of those things. But it really made it digestible for mainstream people to sort of understand that, yes, there is a secret that shouldn't really be kept as a secret of how you become successful in this world. And I loved it, but I understood that there was a little more to it than what the book said. And then I got into the Abraham Hicks teachings, if you're familiar with them. And it was all about vibration. And I said, okay, I like this too. Sort of raise your vibration, get happy. The things that you won't start flowing in, and you're in this high vibe and this flow is wonderful. But then I kept hitting a wall with manifesting the things that I really wanted consistently. And I realized I was chasing them away, but I realized that a lot of my limiting beliefs were still rooted in early childhood stuff that I never dealt with. So I started really studying that, really going deep into the low vibration elements of all of this that most law of attraction teachings and mindset teachings sort of ignore. And when I went really deep into all of those things, I started sort of connecting the dots between limiting beliefs and things that were going on now and people that were showing up in my life as an adult and a few little things that happened in early childhood that established these beliefs. I detuned those. And when I did, everything started really shifting and changing. And so I wanted to teach that. And I was in a corporate job back in 2017 where I was teaching part of it. I was teaching people how to be really successful as commission salespeople. And they were always telling me about their life problems. And, it wasn't really appropriate for me to get into their, relationship business and things like that. I didn't want to get a call from HR saying, what the hell are you teaching out there? So ultimately, I trusted my own abundance enough to walk away from a very high paying corporate job and just do this full time. And I created a little course based on your architecture 7 years ago. And that little course that I created morphed into something bigger, and it actually morphed into what we now call the TYA Practice, which stands for Trust Your Abundance. It really is about trusting the universe, but having such trust that when things spin out and start going wrong, that you don't throw in the towel, give up, go get another job, go do, whatever the matrix tells you you're supposed to do when things don't go right. It's no, I'm going to just keep stepping forward and trusting that it's still going to work out. Even when there's no evidence around, understanding that I've got to shift the energy for the evidence to start showing up. And as long as I'm paying attention to what's not working, then it's going to continue to not work. So that's where TYA came from, was creating a course, teaching it to people from the Stream of David podcast, which I've had for years now. And I wrote a book over a 5-year period based on the teachings with other people, the clients that came through my programs. And I've had everything. I've had people whose children were murdered. I've had people who, I had a woman who was, married to a very well-known multi-billionaire family and was miserable because she felt so much guilt for being so wealthy. I've had people who were in abusive relationships. I just imagine what any problem anybody could have, we have figured out how to solve it with this practice. And it really does work for everything. So over a 5-year period, I wrote the book. The book is out now. And now I'm coaching more specifically people who are stuck in a plateau, who understand law of attraction, understand mindset manifestation, and they're trapped yet again, and they're sort of back to square one. What the hell do I do next? So that's kind of full circle where I am now.
That's awesome, man. So what's different about the TYA practice than the way that, these sort of like law of attraction things and conscious creation strategies are normally taught? Because the way that you do it is a little different.
Well, it's, first of all, I needed a system. We live in this, I call it the matrix, the collective consciousness of humanity, everything, religion, government, family traditions, everything that we learn is sort of taught to us in the matrix. We absorb, and there's no avoiding that. Social media, news media, just getting out in the world, you're going to absorb all of these limiting beliefs. And most of humanity is running on limiting beliefs, as we know, but it keeps us under control, keeps us productive. And so I needed a system to combat all that, because I came to understand that universal law is what really works, and the matrix, quote unquote, really operates opposite of that. Work harder, like you said, grind harder, work harder, play by the rules, go to college, get a good education, go to work for somebody else, grind away at a job, retire and die, basically, is what we're told to do. And spend money along the way, right? Go into debt to make yourself happy because your job is making you so miserable. Well, I knew that I couldn't keep living that way, that wasn't authentic. And I knew how to manifest up to a point. I knew how to manifest materially, but I had to figure out how to manifest in those other areas. I needed better health. I needed better relationships and all of that. So I needed a system. So I created this 4-pillar system, which includes, the first pillar is appreciation, meaning learning how to understand everything rather than judging and fearing it. Everything as a way of life. So instead of saying, I'm really triggered by this political party, or I'm really triggered by the idea of a recession, stepping back and looking at it from a higher level so that you're really unbothered by it. That's a big vibe shift for most people, to not be so bothered by life, appreciating everything, including your own shortcomings and your challenges. That source that's in you, whatever you want to call that, if it's religious or not, it doesn't really matter. It's that creative power that's within all of us, that once we unleash it, we're capable of so much more than we believe. The other one is polarity, understanding that we're polarized beings, meaning that our vibe is going to shift up and down. We all know this because our moods shift. How to navigate that, and that there's so much value in the low part. That's what really sets TYA apart, is we don't fear the spin out. We don't fear everything falling apart. I read Steve Jobs, a couple of biographies about him and the Apple company before it became one of the greatest companies on the planet. It spun out so many times, and he was released as CEO at one point and came back, and they've almost gone bankrupt a couple of times. All of those things just gave them leverage for a better creation and a better version of what they were creating. And I realized that's the process of creation for anything. So instead of hiding from your spin out, instead of hiding from your flaws, your shortcomings, your obstacles, we lean right into that. And it's a very powerful practice. And then with all of those things going as a way of life, then intention, then your intentions come true and you understand how to navigate creating anything new that you want to create. So those four pillars are what we operate on. And I have found that those four pillars, again, I've taught it to homeless people, billionaires, people all over the planet, all age groups, 20s to 70s, and it works for everyone.
I love that. Yeah. One of the things that I've definitely found over the years, when I first started Clients on Demand, I was very naive insofar as I thought like, hey, we just give people the strategy, right? We teach them, this is how you do the ads, this is how you build a high ticket offer, this is how you do, a great webinar, this is how you build a great funnel, this is how you do the enrollment calls so that it's a nice, smooth, easy conversation. But I thought my job was primarily teaching people the how. And I thought that if I just gave them the how, then they would turn around and they would crush it with no problem. Well, after about 6 months, I realized that what was holding most people back, yeah, they needed to know how to do it, right? You need to know the mechanics of it, right? If you're going to play piano, you got to know how to play piano. But it was the fear. It was the self-doubt. It was the overwhelm.
The ego battle. I call it the ego battle. We
ego
go to
battle,
war,
right.
We go to war with our ego, yeah.
Yeah, and what I realized is that the right strategy executed from the wrong mindset will fail every time. But the right strategy executed from the right mindset will crush every single time.
Can't go wrong.
And that's
when you do go wrong, it's just data, right? When you do go wrong and you screw up and you have the right mindset, this is just information. This is how I can do this better. And that's
exactly.
That's why we have low vibe. That's why it exists in the first place. That's why we have challenges.
Well, I think the biggest difference between the way that you and I see success versus the way that the conventional wisdom sees success is it really comes down to who has the power. Do the external circumstances and conditions of your life, are they the cause of reality? Where you look around and you say, oh, well, the Democrats are doing this, the Republicans are doing this, like, oh God, there's like all the things
economy,
you
right? You never talk about this economy. I mean, what do you mean this economy? I can't even buy a 911 Porsche right now because you have to get on a waiting list and buy other cars from Porsche to get a new 911. I mean, this economy is going well for some people, right?
Exactly.
And it always is. Even during a recession, it is.
But it's like what I was saying is like, where are you seeing those external circumstances as causes or effects? Right? Most people see those as causes. The economy is doing bad, therefore I have to do X, Y, Z. I try to train our clients to see themselves as being totally at cause, where what is happening in the world around you, right? Not necessarily what's happening in the Czech Republic, but what's happening in your day-to-day life on an ongoing basis is really just the outpicturing of what you deeply think and feel and believe and how you're showing up. So you are really the cause of your reality. And I think until you really come to understand that, you're sort of useless because you can do the work and you can create success in sort of like fits and starts. But at the end of the day, if you believe that the reason your business is struggling is because Mercury is in retrograde, or because this is happening in the economy, or that's happening in the economy, you're giving away your own power. And I think the reason people do that is because it gives them an excuse. If Mercury is in retrograde and nobody can succeed when Mercury is in retrograde, then I'm off the hook. But you also lose your own power because now every time Mercury is in retrograde, you got nothing you can do except fail and struggle.
Yeah, and that's the thing I don't like about astrology, period, is absolutely I believe there's an energy flow and we're all connected to it and it impacts us. But are you going to listen to your horoscope and let someone else tell you what your life is going to be like or your day? Or are you just going to manage the energy flow? I'll never forget the first time I heard Mercury in retrograde. I'd moved from Florida to California, actually Seattle, and I was working in California, and somebody called out from work because Mercury's in retrograde, and they were like, "Oh, this happens all the time out here. You never hear anything like that in Florida." And I thought, gosh, the whole world is functioning right now. People are walking in this store and they're buying things, and this shopping center that we're in right now is busy, and this person can't even leave the house because Mercury's in retrograde for them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can get trapped in those beliefs, and you're absolutely right. You give away your power.
Well, it all becomes, and this is the thing people need to understand, is that once you accept something as true, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy every time. So I remember I got referred to like a feng shui guy, right? And the feng shui guy was like, "Hey, there's like he looks at like your house and the orientation of your house, and which room are you operating in, the are you working in the southwest corner of your house or the northeast corner of your house, and like which way is your desk facing, and for the next 3 weeks your desk should face this way, if for the next 3 weeks your desk should face that way." Now you guys can't see it, but I have like a, I don't even know, 250-pound desk I had custom made from Russia. So I'm damn sure not turning this thing to face a different direction every 2 weeks, right? So like, but I remember thinking in the moment, oh yeah, okay, well that makes sense. Yeah, I guess that's what I got to do because there's more energy. And then I thought to myself, look, man, there's never gonna be more of God than there is right now. There's never going to be more of source or whatever you want to call it
Yeah,
that
it's in
than there
everything.
is
It's in
right
everything.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're going to tell me that like God is going to show up more powerfully for me if I'm facing south than if I'm facing north? I just don't buy that, And I tried it for a minute, and I was just like, eventually, I was just like, this is just crazy. Like this is all. If I believe it, yes, it will work. If I don't believe it, then I'm resituating the power where it belongs, which is with myself. You know what I mean? So I think it's just so easy for people to give their power away to these external circumstances. And that was a huge wake up call for me at COD when I saw our clients start to do that as they implemented the strategy. Those are the people that would encounter difficulties and challenges. And that's when, I hired Jane, and we really made the mindset piece a big part of what we do.
Yeah, one of the reasons I'm really successful with our graduates is we tell them right up front, get in here and drink the Kool-Aid. Give this power. The power is within you. All we're doing is leading you to what's already in you. We're not giving you any magic pill to solve all these problems in your life. We're just giving you a practice that you're going to learn to apply over a period of 8 weeks. And as you do that, your life's going to transform. But we're just igniting what already exists within you. But if you get in and you really embrace all of this, it will work for you. Drink the Kool-Aid, give it power because you're the power, and whatever you focus on and really give credence to and really give reverence to, that is going to be something for you. And it's okay to do that as long as you understand what you're doing. That you are assigning your power to something and you're allowing it to be a tool or a process that's going to work for you.
So you talked about the four pillars, right? And those are sort of just the four main beliefs and foundations of the system. But you also mentioned that TYA is a practice. So how do you take these ideas and put them into practice? Like what's the sort of like day-to-day application of what you've put together?
We include one of the things that we include as far as just a daily practice is quiet contemplation time. And you can split this up over breaks if you want. It doesn't have to be like an hour a day that you sequester yourself in the morning. People are busy. So it's a very flexible practice. And what I found is for meditation, that if I just quiet my mind just for a second and breathe and feel that little bit of relief, that's activating that source energy that's in me, and it feels good. And just doing that as a practice, I used to do this. I used to travel all the time for work, and I remember doing it in the security line at JFK Airport. And I always say, if I can do it in the security line at JFK Airport in that chaotic environment, you can quiet your mind for just a moment anywhere. So there's that component of it. But then it's refocusing on a day-to-day basis of, instead of looking at something and judging it as something that shouldn't exist, anything I look at like that as a practice, how can I understand this? Let me understand it intellectually so that I don't have to fear or judge it. And it takes time, but when you start just applying that as a practice, you apply it here and there, like if you commute, you would apply it in your morning commute. I used to live in San Francisco downtown, and I had to drive out of the city every day, and the traffic was horrific going in and out of downtown. It was like an hour in and out every day. And I really hated the drive. And I realized, well, I'm in this high paying job. I need to get out and do this every single day. I'm going to a different location, and I need to make peace with this. So I'm going to look for 3 to 5 things to appreciate on this commute. I'm not going to grind. I'm not going to get in a hurry. I'm going to get in the middle lane. I'm going to enjoy my drive. I'm going to look at the palm tree over there or some car that I like on the road and really focus on appreciation. And all of a sudden, my commutes were more enjoyable. They were more efficient. I would find myself on a massive freeway, no traffic around me. I would be the only car No one around me. I'm just in my own little bubble of reality. And I always arrived everywhere I needed to, refreshed, on time, ready to get into the day, instead of, oh my gosh, it was so stressful to have to grind and drive here. I just found joy in something that at the time I had to do. And the cool thing is that ultimately now I work from home. I don't have to drive anywhere. So it's like I detuned that life transgressor so much, I made peace with it that it went away. And now my commute is I go to the gym 3 days a week, and that's it. My car is I put like 3,000 miles a year on my car. It's crazy.
I know, I know. Somebody posted the other day, hey, quick shout out to all the, stay-at-home entrepreneurs with Bentleys and Ferraris and McLarens in the garage that they never
But no
drive.
miles.
And I wrote him back and I was like, dude, I feel personally attacked. Like literally like
Yeah,
never
but it's so
drive.
nice. You enjoy the car more when you get in it and just go someplace for pleasure rather than having to get in and grind somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So, you talked about a couple things. You talked about detuning, which I want to know what that is and what you mean by that. And then
Sure.
also when I read your book, there was this expression that you guys used where you talk about going down the spiral, right? Which is going, I guess, down the spiral into negativity.
Mhm.
So when that happens, what do you do? Because it does happen, to
Oh,
like one of
sure.
the things I say to our clients, and I want to say to everybody watching this, is a lot of people come to clients on demand to learn how to build a 5, 6, 7, 8 figure online coaching company. And one of the things I tell them is that if you want to be heavyweight champion of the world, you're gonna get punched in the face. Like
Mhm.
it's part of the job. You can't be like, oh yeah, man, I'm gonna be number one. I'm gonna be oh, he hit me. That's the sport. That's what you're doing, right? So you're gonna encounter obstacles. You're gonna encounter things that send you down the spiral. When that happens, what do you do?
Yeah, that's a really good point because so many of these practices again are this sort of false gratitude, like I'm so grateful for everything. Are you really? So what we do is we identify what we call transgressors. Transgressors are any person, circumstance, event that you cannot look upon in complete authentic appreciation. So just think about how many transgressors we all have. And so early childhood transgressors, the bully on the playground, the first time your parent made you feel unloved. Root transgressors are usually parents, by the way, because they're our original teachers. So there's some detuning to do around anyone's parents, regardless of how wonderful and loving they were. And then you have current day transgressors, your boss, the person at work that drives you crazy, your bills, whatever. So we start to work on systematically detuning. We prioritize transgressors. What are the top three in your life right now? And can we trace those back to three significant roots? And we detune them just by what I was saying earlier. Instead of judging them as something that shouldn't exist because it's pointless, we look for greater understanding. And so, again, I've had the worst of the worst people come through my program. And when you talk about detuning a transgressor of someone who murdered your child, I mean, that's pretty damn extreme. But by the time this woman came to me, she had listened to the podcast stuff. She knew what I meant. And in this case, we worked on detuning the fact that her son was murdered at 23 and the murderer. And she was waiting for an extradition for 5 years to get justice for her son's murder. And what happened is she got into my program, she detuned. She's instead of hating this man, she says, I want to understand what his journey was to do something like that to my son. And I want to understand my son's journey that led him to this type of experience. Very high level spiritual thinking, I know. But if you've got a massive transgressor in your life and you're tired of suffering in it, this is the only solution. And so she did this work, and the magic that happened, she did the work after 5 years of waiting. While she was in my program, the extradition happened, and she faced him in court for the first time. I like to share that very extreme example, which is real. I've got her testimonial. But whenever I say detune transgressors, everyone has this list of things that they can never appreciate. I'll never appreciate this politician. I'll never appreciate the time I went bankrupt. I'll never appreciate the person that treated me like crap in a relationship. Well, I'm here to tell you can. And when you do that, that raises your general vibration. That sends you generally higher vibrationally. It's like we have all of this stuff packed in a basement and it weighs us down all the time. And we like to think, well, I'm successful now. I don't have to worry about that. I never have to go in the basement again. That's all in the past. Well, that stuff stays with us in our subconscious mind. And those memories that we are saying shouldn't have happened or shouldn't exist are running 24/7 in our subconscious mind. And so what we want to do is go down to the basement, unpack those things, understand them in a deeper way so that we're no longer bothered by them. We're no longer fearing or judging them. That's how we detune things. So that's how you do this in general. When you talk about navigating your spiral, you have a general vibration that your life is running on. And we get a lot deeper into this in our teachings, but your
Sort
life,
of like David, sort of like your like emotional home, right? Like where you
right,
kind of hang
right,
out
like
most.
your life, if you're happy and money is
Yeah.
flowing and you're generally healthy, you're higher on the spiral.
Yeah.
Someone whose life is a hot mess, they're lower on the spiral in general. But you have an in the moment spiral also. So this is your daily, you wake up, you just feel like, just getting up and just crushing it. You just feel so hopeful. Anything you think about doing in the future, creating just feels possible to you. And then a day later, you wake up and all the things that you planned yesterday seem ridiculous. What the hell was I thinking? I can't start a business right now, not in this economy, and I should just be happy that I have a job. So you start renegotiating, right? Well, you're more down the spiral that day. You're lower. And so what happens is that we live in this polarized world that takes us on this vibrational journey. It creates a life experience for us. And we live in this matrix that tells us, here's all the things that shouldn't exist in this world. War, famine, poverty, illness, whatever it is. Here's all the things that shouldn't exist. But they do. So if you're looking at the outer world, judging things that shouldn't exist, and you're looking at your own life saying, I shouldn't be poor right now, I shouldn't be experiencing this at work, I shouldn't be cheated on by my partner, you're not healing or solving any of that stuff as long as you're judging it. So the true healing and solving of anything is in, again, going in the basement, opening the box, looking at it, understanding it on a deeper level so that it's something that you feel, you don't necessarily celebrate it. No one's ever going to celebrate that their child is murdered. That's insane. But finding peace with it, changing the vibration around it so that your suffering is waned, so that you're having a deeper understanding. And what we practice is that deep understanding. So instead of fearing politics or the next recession, I want to understand what drives a recession. Well, recessions are driven by mass fear, selling off of the market. And people at the top of the abundance pyramid know this very well and say, hey, everything's on sale. I used to work for a very wealthy man. And when the recession hit, our business got cut in half. But he says, hey, I've got cash, though. Everything's on sale now. I'm going to go buy up stock. I'm going to buy back our stock now that it's cheap. So the wealthy people understand the game. Everyone else is struggling in the game because they're judging it. This shouldn't be. There shouldn't be billionaires. Bezos and Musk are evil people, and it's terrible that they exist. What is that doing for you? I'm not saying they're nice people. I don't care one way or the other. It's like, why, if you're focused on that and the wrongness of something in the world or in your life, you're not solving it, you're not healing it. The detuning is in the deeper understanding of it. And the vibrational flow that we move through, when you find yourself down the spiral, we have a few different things that we teach in the practice to get back up. The very first thing is whatever you're judging in the moment. Anytime you find yourself really down there, really suffering, like I feel like crap right now, what is this? I promise you, there is something going on in your life in that moment that you're labeling as shouldn't exist. The first thing I do is I create this thing called a stopgap. I catch myself. Is this worth going down my spiral over? I don't want to go down here and feel like shit. And I don't want to keep feeding that and fueling it and staying down here and making this a prolonged period. Is it worth it? Almost every single time the answer is going to be no. So no, it's not. You sort of caught yourself already. Okay, how can I flip this now? I'm labeling what I'm experiencing a pause in my business, a problem client, a problem in my home, something's going wrong with the house. I'm labeling it as something that shouldn't exist. Why am I bothering doing that? Why don't I see this from a higher perspective? I've experienced this before. My ad has stopped working before. My client has, struggled before. My roof has leaked before. I've moved through these experiences and I've been just fine. Why am I choosing suffering in the judgment of the experience right now? And you really do, it sounds tedious, but when you start doing it as a practice, it's your automatic response to lower vibration. Right away, boom, how do I see this differently? Or what's available for me down here? You said something to me a couple of weeks ago that sort of took me like, oh, wait, what's Russ saying? Oh my God, he's telling me I got to change all these things and I've been doing all this work. And then I caught myself. I'm realizing, well, first of all, Russ doesn't even know the whole picture. I haven't shared all that with him. He's giving me some advice. Maybe I need to detune this situation and look at it differently. And then what happened is that led me to this other level of clarity that really set me on fire, thinking, oh my gosh, there's a whole new layer and new level I can teach now. This is great. And I sort of needed to go down to reveal that. So that's the value of low vibration. That's why it exists in the first place. So, there's a lot of tools. Meditation helps, certainly. Appreciation exercises help. Low thought activities can help. If you're really down there in the dumps, go do something that you normally do, that you know how to do, that takes your mind off the wrongness of it. I mean, something silly, like go iron something, go clean something, go clean out the garage, busy yourself just to disrupt that low vibe pattern. So you're not sitting and stewing in it and making it worse, because we feed these things.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's really interesting. Yeah. It becomes a habit after a while of being able to take yourself out of that low vibrational state. I also think that one of the healthiest things people can do is get rid of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, put that
Not
away.
my
Yeah.
daughter. My daughter appeared. Not Valentina, the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was funny, man. Like I was not in a good emotional place. I want to say like 4 or 5 months ago. I mean, to be honest, man, my father passed away in May of 2021, pretty suddenly. And he was a very healthy guy, super energized. I thought we had like another 20, 30 years with him. And it turned out, that we didn't. And that really sent me down into all the most negative stuff, the grief, the impotent rage, the anger, the all those things. And it started to have a ripple effect, where it started to affect, the business and the way I was showing up and all these other things. And it took me a while to, to pull myself out of it. But in the course of doing so, one of the things that I realized is that going on social media and browsing it was definitely not helping, right? Because you're sort of subjecting yourself to the low quality thoughts of hundreds of millions of other people. If you think about where you sit, David, in your emotional home, right? Not to take pride in it or to brag about it, but I would imagine your emotional home is somewhat higher than most of the rest of the population, right? And you have a level of wisdom and insight that other people don't have. And so it's just like, when I was a kid, I used to have the top bunk and my brother used to have the bottom bunk, and we would play this game of could I pull him up or would he pull me down? Well, of course, he's always going to pull me down because he's got the gravity on his side. So it's the same thing when you're looking on social media. You are exposing yourself to the matrix, like you talked about, in a very real way. And all that negativity and paranoia and fear and everything else. And
the polarity creates division, and that's what you're seeing. It's worse now than ever, it seems. Yeah.
But you've got it's almost impossible not to let it drag you down is what I'm saying. So one of the things I did is I deleted all the social media apps on my phone. I got rid of all that stuff, and it made me a lot happier and a lot more present. My wife even was like, "You're so much more present with me. You're so much more present with the kids."
Well, it's designed to draw you in and hook you, and you've probably seen that Netflix documentary that was out a couple of years ago about that. And AI is designed that way too.
Yes,
it's designed as a feel-good experience. And I've done my little dance with AI now to where I've come full circle, where I'm not trusting it nearly as much as I did in the beginning, because it seems so amazing when you first start using it. And then it starts steering you in these odd directions that aren't right.
Like what? Tell me what happened.
Oh my gosh. I saw a TikTok. I do a TikTok. I only do TikTok during coffee time in the morning.
Okay.
And so that's my limited, I'll flip 2 TikToks. It's kind of how I see what's going on in the world, really. And I saw a TikTok about this BOI for your business.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm so off of social media, I wasn't aware that supposedly we were supposed to register our businesses, or we were going to get fined $100 a day. So I go on ChatGPT and I'm like, tell me about this BOI I have to register. I didn't know about that. $500 a day fine. It says, oh no, you're fine. As long as you register by January 1st of 2025, you're fine. After that, there's a $500 a day fine. I thought, what are you talking about? It's July of 2025, and you're telling me I'm already too late. And I start freaking out. I call my ops manager. She says, it's fine. I already looked into it. It's no big deal. So It's something that's not a thing anymore. And ChatGPT was giving me bogus information. And a lot
Yeah,
of times when
it
I
can
get,
happen because it was a thing, and then I think the court decided that you didn't
yeah,
have
it
to. I
got
don't
thrown
remember that.
out. It got thrown out
It
because
got
it was
thrown out.
crazy.
Yeah,
$500 a day for not registering,
it's
and
insane.
it's something I didn't even know about. No one mailed me about it or anything. So one of these
Right.
crazy laws that get pushed through that have to get repealed. So it does give me bad information. Sometimes I'll get stuck. Sometimes I like to edit my own videos if it's training because I want to know, I want to make sure that I cut down some of my chatter and I'm getting my point in, so I can't just hand it to an editor. So I'm trying this new editing software and I get really frustrated with it. And I'll go in and ask, well, in Descript it says I should be doing this, and it gives me these instructions, and it's not accurate because the
Yeah.
software is getting updated all the time, and ChatGPT is giving me something from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's a useful tool to a point,
Yeah.
just like social media is useful to a point, but we
Well,
can't live on this stuff.
I say this as someone who literally has made 9 figures from social media. Stay off it. Like, do it like, or at least put a container around it where like, hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to Russ Rufino's YouTube channel and I'm going to watch something awesome. That's fine. I'm not saying don't do that. What I'm saying is don't just sit there and like doom scroll because
Well, no, because it's
you
meant to
just,
suck you in, and it's going to suck you into look at this scary thing that you need to be focused on right now that really has nothing to do with you whatsoever. And the other thing is the division. Our friends at Facebook, especially, I just see so much divisiveness on there, and that's what the matrix is. If you want to know what the matrix is and what universal law is, and those two things work in opposition, the matrix divides because divide and conquer. Divide us and keep us over here, keep us separate, keep us believing that our corner is the right corner, the other corner is the wrong corner. We're not appreciative of all things. We're not abundant beings there. Our vibe is not high over there. And you're sitting here worrying about judging and giving all the power to the other political party that you think is ruining your life when really you're the one that's ruining your life. I learned to quit giving power to politics a long time ago. And so now it doesn't matter which way the pendulum swings. And I learned this in the recession too, the 2008 recession. I had a house in Florida I was upside down on. I got transferred into a retail job where our business plummeted by 50%. And what happened is that I already was practicing this at the time. I'm not going to participate in any of this. And I ended up getting a full price cash offer on my house in Florida at the dawn of the recession, which is where it started. And I made more money in a corporate job year after year after year during the recession. And what I noticed was because I had all these commissioned salespeople working for me, back to mindset, the couple of people in each one of my 1,000 locations that had the high, that sort of high achiever mindset, even though they were selling furniture, luxury furniture on commission, they never missed a beat. Well, everybody else was like, "Oh my God, no one's coming in, no one's buying," and we had to lay off half our staff, and that was my job at the time, was firing half the staff everywhere. I noticed that people in these locations that just kept their focus on the next client walking through the door is here because they have money and I'm going to sell them something. They were successful. So we can all do that on every level. It doesn't matter what's going on in politics. It doesn't matter what the news is telling us. It doesn't matter what the economy or the stock market is doing. You can flow through and be just fine and move through any situation if you believe that you're okay. If you believe the universe is always going to look out for you, it will.
yeah, there's this amazing quote. I want to say it was Henry Ford, but somebody asked him, "Hey man, if you lost everything, what would you do?" And he said, "I would find a need that people have. I would find a way to meet that need better and cheaper than anybody else, and in a year or two, I'd be a millionaire again." And that's someone who understands, again, going back to what we were saying before, where the power is really situated. The power is situated within you. And you can't give your power away to externals or the market or Mercury in retrograde or any of those things, because then you are, taking away your own agency. And if you really want to be successful, that is the one thing that every super successful person we've ever had, every super successful client we've ever had, you can't achieve real, lasting, and powerful success if you're giving your power away to externals. You just can't.
Yeah, and if you're terrified of failure, we do something in the practice now called firewalking. It has nothing to do with walking on hot coals. Somebody else does that very well. I'm not getting into that. But we talk about walking into the fire. Like, what is your biggest fear? Because people coming into my program now, they've got a major they're already successful, but they've hit a major plateau, and they feel stuck because they're so damn successful. They don't want to, risk it, but there's something calling them toward new creation. That's who I work with. So what we teach them to do is, what's your greatest fear? Losing it all, let's mentally do that. Let's mentally lose it all. Because as long as you're afraid of losing it all, that's going to keep you stuck. You get
Mm,
unstuck by walking into this fire, and it's not easy to do at first pass. You have to sort of build up, and the practice helps you get there for sure. But once you're into this practice, you have the tools to be able to imagine the worst case scenario of anything, sit down and move through it mentally. And then once you move through it mentally, it's not going to haunt you anymore. So it's not
right.
limiting you anymore. It's a very powerful part of our practice.
I love that. I think that's huge. So, David, where can people go if they want to learn more about TYA and get more involved with the work that you're doing?
The TYApractice.com, TYA.
The
Yeah,
TYApractice.com.
TYA stands
We'll
for
put a
Trust
link
Your
to that.
Abundance, and TYA, we've just made that a
Yeah,
word and trademarked
that's
it.
right.
So the TYA Practice is where to find us. I have the Stream of David podcast also, but it's all ultimately everything's going to be the TYA Practice, so that's the place to find us.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you for coming on and sharing your wisdom. It's amazing to have you as a client. It's great to be working with you. I think the new direction that we're taking things in is absolutely going to crush for you, and you're going to have a ridiculous amount of success. And I wish you all the success in the world.
Thanks so much for having me on. I'm excited for what's next.
All right, awesome. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in with us today. We'll catch you on the next episode. Bye bye.